Dasgupta, he assigns this work to about 200 AD, the Samkhya Karika of Ishvara Krishna. And subsequently there have been many treatises on the Samkhya, and the Samkhya system has always been associated with yoga. And Samkhya emphasizing knowledge and yoga emphasizing activity. In Mahabharata they are called the Sanatane Dve, the ancient and the eternal twins, the Samkhya and the yoga. They are complementary to each other. And Mahabharata also has a verse which emphasizes this association of the Samkhya and the yoga. Knowledge without activity is lost. Hatangyanam kriyahinam. And activity without knowledge is also lost. Hata kriya jnanahina. And they give and the Mahabharata gives an example. When there is a wildfire in the forest, a blind man and a man without legs, Pangu, they have been caught. Pashyannapi hato panguhu apashyan andhaha dagdhaha. The forest fire was reaching them. One who could not see was killed. And the lame man, he could see the forest fire coming, but he could not save himself. So both of them were. So Samkhya gives you knowledge. Yoga gives you activity. So the legs to move on and the eyes to see, they are both equally important in life. So Samkhya and yoga are thus the ancient twins, the Sanatane Dve. And the importance of the Sankhyan system is in its analysis. And ideas which have been taken over by the other systems. Firstly, the Sankhyans were the first people who took to the analysis of the individual and the analysis of the universe and pointed out that what is true of the individual is true of the universe. They coined two words, Samashti and Vyashti. Samashti is the entire universe in its essential nature, and the individuals thereof, the parts thereof, the particles thereof, they are all the Vyashti, the individuals. So the constitution of the individual as well as the universe is substantially the same. Vyashti, Samashti, Samyatvad. And this has been emphasized in the Tantra system, where they speak of the Brahmanda or the universe being inside the individual or the Pindanda. The Brahmanda is in the Pindanda. The entire universe is in the human body. So the human body is an epitome of the entire universe. Whatever is true outside is true in you. And Jyotisha has taken this over, and it says that the planets, the stars and the various meteoric substances, the various phenomena are all in the individual, are all in the constitution. Our sense organs, our body, our mind, they contain everything that the universe contains. So this is Sankhyan idea that the Vyashti and the Samashti have the same constitution. And this constitution is dichotomous. There is the Prakriti, there is the Purusha. This is the basic premise of the Sankhyans. They group the details of the universe and details of the individual into four streams. Chaturdha Srota Bhavanti. First one is Kevala Prakriti, Prakriti, which is Prakriti alone. The expression Prakriti is interesting. Prakriti refers to the primordial stuff of which the universe is made. Pra is Prak, Kriti. That from which everything is made is Prakriti. It's sometimes called Mula Prakriti, or the primordial matter, or primordial stuff out of which everything has come into being. And sometimes it's called Pradhana, Pradhiyate Anena. This enters into every detail of the universe and every detail of the individual, this Prakriti or the Pradhana. This is capable of producing, but this is not produced itself. Therefore, it's called Prakriti, meaning thereby Sarvasya Karanam. It is the cause of everything else. It is itself not caused. It is not a Karya, it is only a Karana. It is not an effect of something else, it is the cause of everything else. This Pradhana or the Mula Prakriti is the first category that they deposit. And secondly, there is an aspect of the universe which includes the individual, which are only products, which have only come into being as a result of the modifications of the Prakriti. And they in their turn can't produce anything else. These are Vikritis, only Vikritis, Kevala Vikritis, or modifications, changes, the products that have come into being. But the products are incapable of producing anything else in their turn. And these are the Shodasha Vikaras, or 16 details that the universe has, more prominently the individual, like the sense organs of knowledge, cognitive sense organs, which we call the Jnanendriyas, the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, and the skin, the Jnanendriyas, the organs of cognition which we have, and the Karmendriya, 5 Karmendriyas, or the limbs which we use for action, like speech, hands to prehend or grasp, feet for locomotion, and the organs of elimination and the organ of procreation, the 5 Vakpani Padapa Upastha. These are called the Karmendriyas, or the organs of action. And there are the 5 vital processes within, called Prana Panchaka. Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana, Samana, discharging the various vital functions of the body. And then there are the 5 basic elemental units, like the earth element, fire element, water element, air element, and the Akasha element. It might be wrong to translate Akasha as ether, but Akasha is one of the bhutas. These are the bhutas. So like this we have the modifications or the vikaras which in their turn can't produce anything else. And thirdly, there are both Prakriti and Vikriti, those which have been produced and those which produce in their turn something else, like the Mahat or the personal consciousness. I'll come to this aspect a little later. And then the ego, then the mind, and then the 5 Tanmatra would be a difficult thing to translate. Tanmatra in Sanskrit means that only. The entire universe is composed ultimately of the 5 elements, according to the Samkhya system, according to Indian thought. Everything in the universe is ultimately constituted of the Panchabhuta, 5 elements. But whatever you find in the universe is a combination, a concatenation, a confabulation of all these five in various proportions. In water that we drink and bathe in, for example, has a large amount of the water element, but it also has the other elements. So everything in the universe is not nascently made of this or that bhuta or primary element. It's a composite of all the five, but there is an abstract conception of the tattva as such, the water element as such, the fire element as such, which you don't find in actuality, but which it is possible to conjecture and infer. These are called the tanmatras, that only, tatumatra, tanmatra. So these are called the prakriti as well as the vikriti. And lastly, there is anubhaya, that which is neither a prakriti nor a vikriti, which does not produce anything, nor is it produced by anything. And this is anubhaya, which is neither prakriti nor vikriti, is called the purusha. Purusha is the what we might roughly equate with the consciousness, the pure consciousness, the consciousness which has not taken a personal or individual form. So this Purusha is the principle of consciousness, and Prakriti is the principle of the stuff of the universe, not matter, because it includes spirit also in its the dichotomy is not between matter and spirit. It is matter and spirit in one group, and that's Prakriti, and the principle of consciousness which does not enter into it, which is Purusha. And the Sankhyans, they formulate that everything in the universe, including the individual, have come about as a result of this peculiar association, samyoga vishesha, a peculiar association between Purusha and Prakriti. They call it a peculiar association because by their very nature they can't unite, they can't come together. Prakriti is what is sensible, what has a form, what will change, what will produce, and what will evolve. But Purusha is like a light. There can be no change in it, and it can't produce any changes in its own turn. How are the two related with each other? Because unless these two are there, the universe won't come into being at all. From a tiny blade of grass to the solar system, they say everything is made up of these two units, Prakriti and the Purusha. But how do they come together? How do they work together? The Sankhyans give another homely example, because ultimately the Samkhya is supposed to be the folk knowledge crystallized. It is the folk knowledge which the people had and which the people even now have in the villages. The various types of religious activities that we see do involve this Purusha Prakriti ideology. So there is a beautiful book by Devi Prasad Chattopadhyay, Lokayata, which explains how the Samkhya system was a folk system. It was the folk mind that generated the Samkhya system, and it was accepted by the sophisticated folk. Well, the Sankhyans give a homely example. It's like Pangvandhayoho samyoga vishesha iva. It's like the arrangement that a blind man and a lame man have entered into. The two together want to go about, they want to travel. The blind man can't see the way about. and the layman can't possibly walk. But their peculiar union will make both of them move to the place they want to. The layman climbs on the shoulders of the blind man. The layman, because he can see, he can show the way. The blind man, because he can walk, he can carry him across. So Prakriti and the Purusha are like this. The Prakriti can see, it is consciousness. Without it, the world would be one darkness. Unless we have this consciousness in us, the entire world would not be visible at all and no action would be possible. But for actual activity, for actual operation, we require a body, we require hands, we require the sense organ. So this peculiar association, in this association, the blind man is the Prakriti. The lame man is the Purusha. The Prakriti and the Purusha enter into an arrangement like this and become responsible for the entire universe. That's to say, in simple terms, the primordial stuff can't evolve, can't change unless there is a light of consciousness. So this light of consciousness provides the direction and provides also the way by means of which the evolution can take place. The second great thought that the Sankhyans gave to us is about the very idea of evolution, and they coined the term parinama, parinamate. Nama is to bend, parinamate is to bend in a particular way. So evolution is change, not haphazard change, but change in a direction, change in a particular pattern, particular way. So this is directed change. So parinama, the Sankhyan people evolved this term as at least as early as the 2nd century AD, because we find this concept explained in the Samkhya Karika of Ishvara Krishna. So long before the concept of evolution was accepted by the modern folk, the Sankhyans already posited that there is an evolution, there is change. Parinamaha prakriti visheshaha deshakala visheshatvat ekavasthaparaha. That's how they define. In time and space, change occurs in a linear fashion. This is parinama or evolution. So this they had to do because there were other theories explaining the universe. One was what was called the Arambhavada. The Nyayikas and the Vaisheshikas held this view that universe comes into being anew. Something comes without a background. Something like creation. Whether God wills or no, or whether a change occurs, an explosion occurs, and a phenomenon occurs, and the universe comes into being. So the Nyaya Vaisheshika people subscribe to the coming about of the universe without a background, and everything is ushered in by the force of circumstances that were created at that particular time. This is approximately the theory held by the modern people. Well, the second notion is the Vivartavada. This is called the Arambhavada. The other is Vivartavada. Vivarta is an unreal transformation. The theory of creation assumes that something comes out of nothing. There was nothing before, and something comes into being now, And what comes into being now has characteristics which can't be explained by the precedents. But this Vivartavada says things have always been the same. They appear unreally like this or that. Vivarta is the transformation which is purely in the vision. It is the phantasmagoric transformation. Those philosophers who hold that the world is unreal, that the world exists only as a figment of one's imagination. It is not drishti srishtivada, it is srishti drishtivada. You don't see the universe as it is, but the way you look at creates the universe about you, around you. So, drishti is vision, srishti is the created world. We see because of the created world. These philosophers, like the Yogacharyans, the Vedantins, they say the universe appears in so many ways because of your ways of seeing. It is drishti srishtivada. Because you see that a thing is there, you are creating that thing by your vision. So actually the world does not exist. The world exists because your thought exists. If your thought goes, the world has no stuff, has no substance. This is the Vivartavada. The Sankhyan people rejected both these. They rejected the Arambhavada, or the theory of creation, sui generis, and they created this Vivartavada, or the unreal world appearing to be real because of your perception. The world having only a perceptual validity and no objective justification on its own. Well, the Sankhyan people, they had to posit this Parinamavada, saying that there was the primordial stuff of the universe which was unmanifest, and where the three gunas were in a state of perfect balance and equipoise. This is an interesting concept which has made an inroad into every other system in India, including the Jaina and the Bauddha. The word guna is a very strange one because we don't have a Sanskrit etymological justification for this word. So quite a few words in Sanskrit have no grammatical sanction. So Panini does not approve. So our word puja, for example, Panini would not approve of this word because it can't be derived from any dhatu. So puja is a Dravidian word which has entered into the limbo of Sanskrit. So this guna also is some Austro-Dravidian word. That's what Sumit Kumar Chattopadhyay says. It's an Austro, meaning of Australian stock, and Dravidian word taken over to Sanskrit, taken over by the Sanskritists. So the Sankhyan people make use of this term guna, and the early reference to this word is in terms of a rope. Guna, rajju bhutaha gunaha. Guna is like a rope. A rope is made of several strands twisted together. A rope is not one piece. A rope has several other strands within it which are all twisted, and the rope acquires its existence. Likewise, this Prakriti is not one piece, not one stuff, one solid something. It consists of three strands, and these three strands are the gunas, the sattva, the rajas, and the tamas. The sattva is being. It has many shades of meanings, but in the Sankhyan context, it means the being, to be, the Latin est. So sat means to be, existence. Sattva is the principle of existing, the easiness. And Rajas is activity. It is becoming. Sattva is being. Rajas is becoming, dynamism, activity, operation. And this tamas is inertia, holding back the sattva as well as the rajas. So the prakriti, the mula prakriti or the pradhana or the primordial stuff out of which the entire world is constituted, in its original state, which is only conjectural, there is the samyavastha. Gunanam samyavastha prakritihi iti uchyate. There is no over much activity of any one of these gunas, where being, becoming and inertia, they are all of the same caliber, they are all of the same strength. Then you have this notion of the Prakriti. And this is also termed the avyakta, unmanifest, because no one thing comes up. But the ideology of the gunas involves that there is a continuous struggle between them, a strife between them to rise to the surface. And the Sankhyan people call it utkarsha. Krisha is to drag. Ut is up. Utkarsha is dragging up. Sattva wants to come up, but Rajas wants to come up. Tamas also wants to come up. So there is a continuous strife on the part of these three gunas for dominance. When they are all equipotent, that's to say no one can come up, then this Prakriti can't be identified as this or that. Prakriti is avyakta, unmanifest. What happens in our deep sleep? This is the avyakta avastha, where the individual can't manifest himself, there is no preponderance of one guna over the other. Well, this state does not continue for long, because Rajas by its very nature is dynamic, it's active. When the Rajas overtakes the other two, becomes Utkarsha, it rises up, pushing the other two down, then Prakriti begins to change. So this is called the Guna Vaishamya. Vaishamya is the dissonance among the gunas. They are not in equipoise, they are not in balance. There is a disturbance. So this disturbance is called the Guna Vaishamya. And this thought has been applied in Indian medicine, in Ayurveda, where they speak of the Tridhatus, Kapha, Vata and Pitta, representing the three gunas. And an individual is healthy so long as these three dhatus are in balance. When any one of these dhatus begins to come up, then ill health results. So dhatu vaishamya and dhatu swasthya or samya, health and disease, are interpreted in terms of the sattva, rajas and tamas of the Sankhyans. Well, the parinama is from a change from the avyakta stage to the vyakta stage. So till now the nature, the primordial nature or prakriti was unmanifest. But then Rajas rises up and the prakriti changes and begins to evolve. There is a linear development of several tattvas or padarthas from this. The earliest evolute, as it were, parinami, as it were, they liken to the ocean being still, and owing to something, breeze or whatever you might think, there is a slight rustle on the surface of the water, a sort of a surface tension on water, and that develops into a wave in due course. So every wave starts from this surface tension on the water, which is the midpoint between the Samyavastha and the Vaishamyavastha. The still water, the rustle on the water, and then the wave coming up. So every detail of the universe has come out like the waves of the ocean from the tensions which are produced in the Prakriti. So this phenomenon of creating a tension for something to come out is called Mahat. Mahat. In the Sankhyans call it Maghash is the root. Maghash is to open up, develop. And this Mahat is what comes about suddenly as a result of the emergence of Rajas into prominence. So when Rajas comes into being, this Mahat comes into being. This Mahat is the presence of the Purusha in the Prakriti. This denotes that without the presence of the Purusha, the Prakriti can't do anything. Like the eye can read, but for reading the eye requires the light. The light does not read, we read, but we require the presence of the light. So Prakriti changes, Prakriti evolves, but the presence of the Purusha is required for it to change, to evolve. So this first nascent becoming explicit or Vyakta is called the individualized consciousness. In the Buddhist lore, this idea has been taken up to explain the principle of consciousness. The Buddhist theorists like Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, they point out that there is a consciousness which is beyond the individual, which includes the individual. But this consciousness, it gets individualized. They give an example, again a homely example. Indian philosophy, it was brought into being by very simple folks. They took homely examples. A man is sleeping under a mango tree. He has covered his head with his cloth and he is sleeping under the mango tree, and it is the fruiting season. It's the season where the mangoes will be ripe. So the individual is asleep, completely asleep. He is not aware of himself, he is not aware of the mango tree, he is not aware where he is sleeping. So they say this is the chitta. So consciousness is like this. And a mango dismembers itself, detaches itself from its stalk and falls to the ground, grazing his ear. And the individual wakes up, removes the covering of his head, opens his eyes, looks all round and sights the mango. And he stretches his arm, takes the mango in his hand, brings it nearer and examines it, whether it is ripe enough for eating, whether it is good, and then if it is good enough for him to eat, he will eat it. The mango gets digested and he goes to sleep again. Well, if we are principles of such unmanifest consciousness. But as soon as there is a stimulation through a sense avenue, we wake up. You are sitting still. As soon as you hear a word, you are oriented towards where the sound comes from, isn't it? So Buddhists say, so consciousness is a principle that is universal and unitary in character. But because of these stimulations, the consciousness gets individuated. The term that they use, when the consciousness is flowing, a flow of consciousness, the stream of consciousness. One of the French philosophers, Henri Bergson, he also spoke of this stream of consciousness, the flow of consciousness. It's flowing, it's going on. The Buddhist philosophers in the 3rd century, Nagarjuna was in the 3rd century, he said, Bhavanga Chitta. Chitta or consciousness, which is phenomenal in character, phenomenological if you want, or existential. The existential phenomenological consciousness in which we all participate. It's not as if I have a consciousness and you have a different consciousness and we come together and transact with each other. We participate in one consciousness that's a flow through us, because the only reality is this consciousness or Chit, and the Vedantins call him Brahma. Brahma is consciousness which is unmanifest, which is not specified as this or that. Well, what the sense avenue does is to block this river. You consider a river flowing and the water is dammed up. What happens to the water? The water takes a turn. It is channelized. It is brought into a canal. Canal is a smaller thing. A river is huge. You can't see its ends. Consciousness is like that. But when it is individualized, they call it Vithi Chitta. Vithi is a road. Consciousness has taken a road, has come on the street. It is bound on either side by various things. So this consciousness is not the consciousness which we have in sleep, in deep sleep. That consciousness is Bhavanga Chitta, where there is no distinction between subject and object. The sleeper is not conscious that he is sleeping, and the objective world does not present itself to him. And this is, but nevertheless he is alive, he is active. So this is Bhavanga Chitta, like the sleeping man under the mango tree. And as soon as the sense is activated, the sense organ is stimulated, then this Bhavanga is blocked up. They call it Bhavanga Uchcheda, blocking up of the universal consciousness, the cosmic consciousness as it were, or the pure consciousness as it were. Now the consciousness takes the road which the sense directs. So he opens and the eye, sense organ, reaches the object, the hand reaches the object is brought nearer and examined by the mind regarding its suitability or edibility. Well, the Buddhists say that consciousness in its nature is universal. It has no bounds. It has no references, either subjective or objective. It's one flow continuously. But what happens in our case is that this gets dammed up. This gets blocked so that we reach here, we reach there, we reach wherever the objects take us. So this is Vithi Chitta, or the Chitta or consciousness taking roads, or individualized consciousness. We are conscious, but when you hear me talk, it is auditory consciousness. When you see me standing, it is visual consciousness. So our one consciousness is broken up, fragmented into tiny bits because of the objective presentations and because of the medium of the sense organs. So the Sankhyan people gave this idea and the Buddhists worked this out into a very elaborate theory of consciousness, especially by Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu. They developed this theory in the Yogacara system into a very elaborate structure of consciousness. Well, the Sankhyan people gave this idea that Purusha is like the Bhavanga Chitta, universal consciousness, in whose light, by whose inspiration, the Prakriti will begin to change, will evolve. And this Purusha will not get into any of these changes. It will remain Sakshi or witness. Like the light, you might read a novel and cry or feel happy, but the light will not cry or be happy. Light is not involved in what you are doing, but light is there to provide you with the means of reading. So what you read is your affair, but the light does not. Light is merely a witness. So this Purusha is a mere witness in whose presence Prakriti evolves. And they point out that in the individual, Prakriti evolves into three aspects. The first one is what is called Bhogayatana. Bhogayatana is the seat of experience. That is to say, the body, sense organs, these all, the body is the Bhoga Ayatana. Ayatana is the seat, the support or the foundation. Bhoga is experience, the seat of experience. So whatever we experience is through this body. The body in the Sankhyan system is composed of two levels or strata. One is the Sthula Deha, or the gross body, and the other subtle body within, constituted by the vital forces, the mind, the ego, consciousness, etc., etc., etc. Now, this entire configuration they call the Bhogayatana, the body of an individual. And secondly, Bhoga Upakarana, are the means of experience. They are the sense organs, the indriyas. Bhoga Upakarana. Upakarana is that which make experience possible. Bhoga Ayatana, Bhoga Upakarana, and lastly the Bhogya Vastus. Bhogya is those objects which are experienced. So the world occurs to us in terms of the body that we have, where experience occurs, the sense organs through which the experience comes to us, and the objects in the outside world which are experienced. So this is the triad: Bhoga, Upakarana, Bhoga Ayatana, and the Bhogya Vastus. And the Sankhyans apply their theory of the gunas here. Bhogopakarana, Bhogayatana is you have the body. It is the existential aspect, and therefore it is the sattva. Bhoga Upakarana are the operational media through which all these experiences occur. It means activity, dynamism. So the indriyas constitute the rajas part of it. And the objects outside which are passively presented to you, they are not active. When you see a thing, there is no activity there. The objects are tamas. So sattva, rajas and tamas, they diversify, the gunas diversify themselves into the several bodies the sense organs and the objects of the world. After having given this analysis, the Sankhyans go on to say that there are two kinds of evolutions which are occurring. One is called the external evolution, or they call it Linga Sarga. The evolution of the objects outside, the five basic elements, Prithvi, Ap, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha, they combine in various proportions and they branch off, they ramify and they bring into existence the world outside you, which is real, which is not unreal, which is not phantasmagoric, which is a real world. This is what they call the Linga Sarga, where tamas prevails, inertia prevails. And the other evolution is the individual evolution. And this they call the Pratyaya Sarga. Here, in the Pratyaya Sarga, the evolution is in terms of the basic consciousness, on the foundation of which we identify the body with that consciousness and speak of I, ego, ahankara. So this ahankara is not among the vices. This ahankara in the Sankhyan term, it's a technical word. Aham iti karoti iti ahankara. That which makes the I possible. What is it that gives us the notion of I, me, mine, for me, to me, from me? All these various aspects of the I, they say the body gets identified by the consciousness. So the consciousness is terribly individualized. It is incorporated consciousness. Consciousness which has assumed a corporeal form. My awareness is pari passu with the body that I have. This they call ahankara. Ahankara is the egoity, I-ness, the notion of ich or I. So this ahankara is the individualized consciousness which is the bedrock for all our experiences. You will have to say, I see it as an object. The Sankhyans use grammar a little here. We say, Ghatam aham pashyami, I see a pot. The word in Sanskrit pashyami does not require an I. Pashyasi is you see. Pashyati is he sees. Pashyami is I see. So the notion that comes to me first is pashyami. This pashyami is a word dominated by the kriyapada or the action. Seeing, I am the seer, pashyami. And ghatam pashyami, I see a pot. Pot is clear, seeing is clear, but they say when somebody has the vivaksha or the awareness or the eagerness to pinpoint the other pole of your experience, you will say, who is seeing? Then you would have to say, aham pashyami. Although aham is included in pashyami, you would have to spell it out. So this is called pratyadhyavasaya. When you see a pot, you have the experience of the pot. But then if somebody prods you and asks, who is seeing this pot? Then you say, I am seeing the pot. So this I comes in as a retrospection. It does not come into your experience necessarily or immediately. It is to be spelt out. I. So this ego stands at the back. These functions like the avyakta, as Sankhyan's posit, what is true of the Mula Prakriti, it's an avyakta in the unmanifest state. This ahankara also is in the same state because the three gunas are in a state of balance, samyavastha. But when you are seeing a pot, when you know that it is a pot, and when you have all the mentations regarding the pot, it is made up of this, it is useful for this, its size is this, its color is this, and so on and so forth, you have moved away from this ahankara and you have an awareness or an aspect of consciousness where the object rules the roost. The object is more important. Where the object becomes all that important, this is called the manas. Manas or the mind is the object-oriented consciousness, whereas ahankara is the subject-oriented consciousness. And when nobody asks you, when nobody sees, when you don't see anything, this ahankara does not exist, this manas does not exist, only that basic awareness exists, which is unmanifest totally. Well, the Sankhyans in this way explain the genesis of our experience, how we experience and by what means we experience. And the Purusha and the Prakriti, they go together in all the experience. And the Sankhyans posit there are three types of stresses which we have. Tapatraya. I don't know if this word is frequently employed in the other languages. In Kannada, Tapatraya is a woe of troubles. It's a series of troubles that one has. And we say Tapatraya. Tapatraya means infinite troubles. So the Tapatraya has come from the Sankhyan stock. The three kinds of sufferings that we have, they say Adhyatmika. Atma is the body and the mind. So we have the diseases of the body, the ailments of the mind, which are Adhyatmika Tapa, suffering or stress or strain resulting from the bodily ailments and the mental troubles. And then the Adhi Bhautika, the troubles that come from outside, the troubles that come from other beings, from our friends and foes, friends who function like foes and foes who are sometimes friends. The troubles caused by others. In this present case, the trouble I am causing you, it's impingement on your auditory apparatus, which could well do with a rest. Well, this is Adhi Bhautika, or the troubles that come to us from our surrounding. And Adhi Daivika is the troubles which come to us without our ken or control. The lightning strikes, the torrential rains come, or a terrible summer. These are all without our control, without our expectation. These are called the Adhi Daivika. So we are all prone to these three kinds of ailments. The troubles from our fellow beings, the troubles from our own body and mind, and the troubles unforeseen, which are unforeseen. And the Samkhya system says, by a correct knowledge of the Prakriti and the Purusha, you will be able not to prevent these troubles, but not to feel the pangs of these troubles. So therefore the Samkhya system starts with this promise that the knowledge about Purusha and Prakriti are likely to give you a stability of mind, a steadfastness by means of which all these troubles will fall on you and don't make an impact on you. Therefore the Sankhya starts Tapatraya Bhigata Jigyasa Tatapaghatake Hetau. So this makes it philosophical. Well, shall we stop there? Yes. To the yoga, which is a complementary discipline to Samkhya. The Samkhya and yoga have always been clubbed together, and oftentimes the Samkhya is spoken of as the theory and yoga as the practice. Samkhya Yoga, the two together. And Krishna, in fact, in Bhagavad Gita says that only fools think of Samkhya and yoga are different. Ekam Sankhyamcha Yogancha yah pashyati sapashyati. You should realize that that Samkhya and yoga, they constitute one system. They are not two systems. Where the jnana part, jnana yogena sankhyanam, karma yogena yoginam. One refers to the practice, what you should do, and the other, how should you know. So the Samkhya emphasizes knowledge and yoga emphasizes action. But the two are based on the same premises, on the same philosophy, on the same theoretical structure. But yoga speaks of a principle of Godhead, Ishvara, on whom the mind could be settled. So God is a device for the concentration of mind. Ishvara pranidhana dva. So this Ishvara has no existence of his own, no independent existence. But the concept of a Godhead, the ideology of a Godhead, would be helpful for you to hang your mind on. So Ishvara pranidhana dva. But the Samkhya does not introduce God anywhere in its system. It is entirely atheistic. It does not have a use for God. But the yoga has a use for God, whether he exists or no. As Voltaire is supposed to have said, if there were no God, it would be useful to invent one. So, the yoga is sometimes called Seshvara Samkhya. It is Samkhya with Ishvara, with this difference that they posit Ishvara. And the Samkhya philosophy is called Nirishvara Yoga. It is yoga minus Ishvara. And this yoga is Samkhya plus Ishvara. Seshvara Samkhya and Nirishvara Yoga. But yoga was not always associated with Samkhya. Yoga has had a hoary antiquity. Even in the Rig Veda, you find suktas where the yogis are mentioned. Those who are given to ascetic practices, those who are given to several kinds of austerities, penances. So in the Keshi Sukta, you have the reference to the Vaisheshikas, those who are feeding themselves only with the air, those who are rejecting all food, those who stood at a spot for long hours. So yoga practices seem to have had a very great antiquity. And even in the finds of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, you find many seals wherein the yogis are portrayed. So this yoga, it must have been a very old practice on the part of some people to get into states which are abnormal or supernormal or powerful, effective. Unless you get into that state, you can't solve some problems. So yoga was always a device for man to rise to a higher level of awareness and a greater efficacy. So the medicine men, the shamans and the various priests, they must have been practicing this yoga from time immemorial. But at some point of time, the Samkhya ideology was fitted to the yoga. and it emerged as a coherent system. Now the earliest sutras or aphorisms of pertaining to yoga is from Patanjali. So Patanjali, who is said to have lived in the 3rd century BC, he is supposed to have done a very great service to mankind by trying to eliminate the 3 kinds of troubles that man has. There is a familiar verse, Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. So Patanjali is supposed to have written a tract on medicine, malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena. He wrote a treatise on medicine which Charaka is supposed to have utilized in a Samkhya, Charaka Samhita, Ratreya Samhita, to eliminate the troubles that man gets through his body. And then most of the troubles are caused by our speech. We speak ignorantly, roughly, harshly, inadequately, or unwarrantedly, endearingly, so that we are causing trouble to others through our speech all the time. So Patanjali recognized this. Vacham, the troubles of the speech are corrected because he wrote a treatise on Panini's grammar, Mahabhashya. Mahabhashya of Patanjali is to make us speak well. So Patanjali in his Mahabhashya says, Alpiyamso sushabdaha, mahiyamso apashabdaha. He says, when you look round, people who speak ill are in large numbers. People who speak well are in a terrible minority. Alpiyamso sushabdaha. And for communication, speech is absolutely essential. Not only for communication, for fixing your ideas, for expression of your ideas, speech is essential. Why don't people attend to their speech? So Patanjali wrote the Mahabhashya to make people adepts in their speech. And thirdly, the mental ills or ailments, chittasya padena, yogena chittasya. And he wrote this Yoga Sutra to eliminate the troubles of the mind. So the mind, body and speech, the 3 were taken care of by Patanjali. So therefore Patanjali is a great sage to whom we bow. But this Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is by no means the first work on yoga. The very structure at the very introduction to it says, Atha Yoga Anushasanam. There has been a long tradition of yoga. There is a huge literature on yoga, and I am trying now, says Patanjali, I am trying now to abridge it for the sake of ready comprehension. Atha Yoga Anushasanam. But the earlier works on yoga have been lost to us. We don't have them. This Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, which is in 4 sections or padas, consisting of 194 sutras or aphorisms, is a remarkable text of theoretical and practical value. Well, here Patanjali tries to fix yoga in a framework which is very valid and relevant. Well, the word yoga has as many as 52 different meanings. Yoga means a relation. Yoga means an opportunity. And yoga means a medicinal preparation. Yoga also means deceit, kapatam, chalam, api yogam. deceiving people. And that's how yoga is practiced today. Well, yoga has this meaning. And this kapata and chala, these are also meanings of the yoga. But Panini derives this word yoga from two dhatus, dhatvarthas. Yuja samadhau, yujir yoge. These are the two meanings that Panini suggests. The first one is yuja samadhau. Yuja, the root, means to compose, to bring about composure. Samadhau, samyak adhiyate manaha asmin iti samadhi. Samadhi is not going into nirvana. Samadhi merely means where you focus all your mental faculties on a particular object. Adhiyate asmin manaha iti samyak samadhi. So, yuja means to focus your mind entirely, deeply, on any particular aspect or object is yoga. Yuja samadhau, this concentration. The other meaning of yoga is yujir yoge. Yujir is to yoke. And the English word yoke, it comes from yoga again. Yoga has given this Anglo-Saxon word to yoke. To yoke is yujir yoga. This yoga is to put together, to bring two things together, to relate them and to fuse them. So yujir yoge, to fuse two things, to bring about two disparate things together. This is yujir yoge. The second meaning, I gave an example of the sutra style. This is justified by Patanjali's sutra also. The first sutra says, Atha yoga anushasanam. Now then, atha means then. When, atha means after this, we get into anushasana of yoga. Atha yoga anusasanam. Atha, it presupposes that you have been doing something else. You have concerned yourself with something else. And now you branch off into an inquiry into yoga anushasana. Atha yoga anushasana. What is this atha? What does it involve? The Bhashya says, Samkhya pravachananantaram. After having learnt about the Samkhya theory, now we go on to yoga after a cup of coffee as we did. Now this atha has this force that the Sankhyan theoretical appreciation being over, now we get into the yoga anushasana. Now this is not an inquiry. Yoga is not a pariksha shastra. You are not trying to know anything. Vedanta has athato Brahma jignasa. Jignasa is desire to know. We desire to know Brahman and therefore we study this. And in Mimamsa, they say athato dharma mimamsa. Mimamsa is an inquiry. We inquire into what makes this dharma. So that's the scope of Mimamsa. But yoga is neither a Mimamsa nor a jignasa. It's not a pariksha shastra. But anushasanam. It's a series of prescriptions, injunctions. It's a series of practical prescriptions which constitute the bulk of the yoga. Atha yoga anushasanam. The practices relating to yoga are here under described. That's what the sutra would mean, aphorism would mean. Atha yoga anushasanam. Having learnt about the Sankhya, we will now talk about the procedures by means of which yoga could be accomplished, so that the purpose of the Sankhya would be fulfilled. Because Sankhya Pravachana Sutra includes this yoga. Now, the second sutra would have to First sutra is Uddesha. Second sutra, as I said yesterday, was about Lakshana, defining the term. So the student will ask, Yoga Anushasana, what is this yoga? Yoga has 52 different meanings in the Nighantus or the lexicons. In what meaning are you employing the term yoga? And the next sutra says, Yogaschitta vritti nirodha. So far as this work is concerned, yoga is taken in the sense of chitta vritti nirodha, controlling the modifications of the mind. We don't use yoga in any other sense. Chitta vritti nirodha. So it gives a lie to all the yogic practices that are being freely exported from this country. Yoga is simply chitta vritti nirodha. It refers only to the mental modifications, chitta vritti nirodha. So this chitta vritti nirodha answers to Panini's derivation of the word from the yuja samadhau dhatu. Yuja samadhau, it's a means of concentrating the mind or the mental modifications. So it is samadhi so far as the nature of yoga is concerned. It is nirodha so far as the practical aspect is concerned. As a method, it is nirodha. As a principle, it is samadhi. So samadhi and nirodha are two sides of the coin, same coin. Samadhi is the nature of the yoga, and nirodha is the procedure of the yoga. Yogaha chitta vritti nirodha. And the third one should give the purpose, or before you get into the rest of the chapters, what do you get thereby? So this is not a Pariksha Shastra, therefore the next sutra will not be a Pariksha Sutra. I said yesterday with regard to the Vedanta Sutras, the first sutra is called the Uddesha Sutra, laying down the intention that you have, your objective, your purpose. The second sutra will define the terms that you use. And the third onwards, you go about the Pariksha. So Uddesha Sutra, Lakshana Sutra and the Pariksha Sutra. Here, because it is not a Pariksha Sutra, the third sutra is called the Prayojana Sutra. What do we look for? Why should we at all suppress our mental modifications? Chitta vritti nirodha is yoga. But what of it? What do we gain by it? What is the prayojana? And the prayojana, the third sutra says, tada drashtu swarupeva sthanam. Then the principle of consciousness that we have will revert to its original untainted condition. Swarupe avasthanam. It will not be bothered by any modifications whatsoever, so that the individual will really be tranquil, peaceful. And incidentally, the Indian disciplines don't seek to maximize our happiness. The greatest good that a man can achieve, the summum bonum as it were, is shanti or tranquility. We don't aspire for happiness, we aspire for peace, for tranquility. Tesham shantihi. Buddha also says, shantihi akuppa, untroubled peace. That's what you should look for. That's what you should aim for. Well, this tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam, it merely means it is then that the individual is unruffled in his life. He can retain a tranquility and composure that is unshaken, whatever happens. So this tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam, it completes the introductory part. And then there is a term which still has to be explained, this chitta. What is this chitta? Chitta vritti nirodha. Vritti is a process. It's a tendency, a trait, Vriti is to go about. Vritti is what happens, what occurs, an operation. It is chittasya vritti, the vritti of the chitta. What is this chitta? This chitta is not mind. The term has been used very deliberately. It is not mind, and the term for mind is manas. And it is not the ahankara or ego, because there is a term for it. It is not even the individual consciousness which comes and goes on objective stimulations, because there is a different word for it, buddhi. But this chitta has the force of an aggregate of being. Chit is to heap together. Chiti is heap. And those of you who are acquainted with the funeral ceremonies, and after the body is burned, there is the chita sangrahana. You collect the ashes or the bones that have been left over into a heap. So heaping. So chit means to heap, on the basis of which we have the chaityas of the Buddhists. Chaitya is a heap of the memorial particles of a saint. Chaitya is a heap. It's a monument erected over the body or the remains of the body of a saint. So this chitta is whatever is heaped up, collected. So this is the entire being of the individual, which is not distinguished into body, sense organs, mind, this, that, but it is the entire being. Chitta, vritti, nirodha. So in every experience, we are integrated and present a front which is unitary. When you are sorry, when you are depressed, it is not your mind that is depressed. Your depression is for the whole being. When you are elated, when you are happy, it's your whole being that is elated. There are physical changes that occur. There are mental transformations that occur. And you feel in possession of a new energy. So this chitta refers to this integrated individual front that is presented to the world. If the world fails to present itself to you as unitary, you receive the world as a unitary being. You are one and you receive the world. So this chitta refers to this integrated being that's involved in every fraction of your experience. And the vrittis are of many kinds. This being occurs in several kinds. Roughly, the kinds that are distinguished are, some people or everyone sometimes has his chitta in a kshipta state. Kship is to throw away. Kshipta is scattered. So our being is scattered. It's not one pointed at all. It runs here, it runs there, and it is very unsteady. That's when, of the three gunas, rajas is dominant. It will not allow you to rest. It will make your mind unsteady. Rajasatyanta chapalam kshiptamityuchyate. The expression kshipta means because of an excessive rajas acting in you, your mind wanders restlessly here and there. It happens to us. It happens to all of us. And for some people it happens all the time. Luckily for us it happens sometimes. But this kshipta is a state of mind, state of this chitta, where it is unsteady, flitting from one object to another because of the excess of rajas. The second condition of this chitta is mudha. Muha is to confuse, to be ignorant, lack of inclination to know anything. This mudha is infatuated, ignorant state because of the preponderance of tamas. So tamas reigns supreme as a result of overeating or whatever, whatever reason, and then you are unable to focus on anything. Isn't it? It's a common experience. After tea, it's very difficult to focus attention on yoga. But this is the mudha state. And the third state is vikshipta. Sometimes the mind is very clear. Sometimes the being could be focused, but sometimes not. It comes, it goes. Vikshipta is occasionally, kadachit. It is steadfast. And kadachit katvam. And oftentimes it goes. So you are able to attend, sometimes you are not able to do so at another time. This is called vikshipta, because rajas and tamas are vying with each other. Sometimes rajas comes up, sometimes tamas comes up. So you are a prey to these conflicting gunas and the encountering of the two gunas, and you are not able to be this or that. This is called the vikshipta state. And the yoga writers say, in the first two states, those who are kshiptas and mudhas in their chitta, tesham yoga gandhopi nasti, they can never profit by yoga. Because yoga is a means of concentration, but those whose chittas are habitually kshipta or mudha, there is no hope from yoga to them. It's tesham na yoga gandhopi nasti. Even a distant vision of the yoga can't seep into them. That's why you find most of the yogis start well but fall off, because yoga gandhopi nasti. Their minds are either mudha or vikshipta. Well, the third state, vikshipta, there is a hope. If at least you can concentrate sometime during the day, there is hope for you. So yoga sambhavaha, the possibility of profiting by yoga is for those who are in the third state, vikshipta state, is called the ekagra. Ekagra is one-pointedness. You are able to concentrate on anything for a length of time without being distracted. This is ekagra. Eka-agra. That's because sattva prevails in you, and the sattva can offset the influence of the rajas and the tamas. So due to many reasons, due to many of your factions, one of which might be your karma samskaras, you might be in a favorable condition to concentrate on anything. It might be a problem, it might be a scientific problem, it might be anything. But the possibility of concentration is of value, because the sattva prevails in this region. And the last yoga, the last aspect of yoga is called niruddha, where it is suppressed completely. So yoga has these, chitta has these three vrittis. These vrittis, kshipta, mudha, vikshipta and ekagra, are these vrittis, the four vrittis. And real yoga is suppression of all these. Chitta will not even be ekagra. So ekagra is a gain, is the benefit of the yogic practice. But that's not yoga at all. Yoga is when you lose all objective and subjective details of your chitta. It is niruddha, completely suppressed. And in practical yoga, the ekagra state to which some people get into, it's called the samprajñāta samadhi. He is in samadhi, but he knows that he is in samadhi. And he can even identify the people who give him money and don't give him money. So this is samprajñāta samadhi. Samprajñāta samadhi. He is aware, but his chitta is focused. But in this other one, it is asamprajñāta samadhi. He does not even know that he is in samadhi, like in deep sleep. You don't know that you are asleep. So these are the various vrittis of the chitta. And Patanjali's yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. This complete suppression of all the vrittis of the chitta, this is what the yoga seeks to achieve. But why? What happens if the chitta vrittis are resorted to? What happens if the chitta vrittis thrive? Klesha tanukaranartham. Another sutra says, when this chitta becomes objectified or involved in the world, involved in the transactions, there are several obstacles to samadhi, like avidya, smita, raga, dvesha, abhiniveshani, klesha. These are called the kleshas. Klesha is to strain oneself. Klesha is a strain, a stress, a state of duress, a state of weight. So this klesha is what troubles us. Whatever you do will redound on you with a stress, with a strain, because avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhiniveshani, klesha, panchataya. There are these 5 ways of troubling ourselves. The 5 ways of being in a stress situation. The first one is avidya, or you don't know. You don't know what is what. This is viveka hanitva. You don't know the good things from the bad things, the correct things from the incorrect things, the right things from the wrong things. This viveka or discretion you lack. Therefore your life is like a rudderless boat. It just as the current takes your boat, you go. You don't have a rudder in your hand and you can't control your boat. So as the circumstances come, you move. So this is due to the avidya or the aviveka. You don't have a positive approach to life. You allow yourself to drift as the circumstances take you. As a result of which, there is a strong sense of the ego, asmita. So you think you, apart from the universe, is all important. So this asmita is not a mere ahankara. It is the notion, strong notion that I am in my body, outside also. This asmita is a strong sense of egoity, bordering on arrogance. So considering oneself to be the measure of the universe, the world exists for my sake. If I don't exist, 2 hoots for the world. So this kind of asmita or arrogance is an incipient troublemaker with us. We overreach ourselves in everything that we do. We put the stamp of our personality in everything that we do, and we try to project ourselves into the life outside us. So this is because You have no sense of values. So this avidya leads to asmita. And this asmita, paramparya kramena, one leading to the other. Next one is raga. Raga, raj, is to associate oneself with anything intensely, emotional involvement. This is raga. You get attached to things. You appropriate the body to yourself. You appropriate the things to yourself. You appropriate persons to yourself. So this magnifying your ego with the belongings and persons around you and considering that all of them live for your sake, to glorify you, this is raga. Raga is this excessive attachment that you have to the things around you, as a result of which there is necessarily a hate or dvesha for whatever does not augment your egoity. Whatever does not support your ego, you look down on, you hate. So since raga, dvesha are twins. So when you love somebody, there is also a hate which is incipient in it. You can't love anybody without hating the others around you. So love and hate are characterized as the twins or the pairs or the dvandva. One can't exist without the other. So this raga, dvesha, and the last one which enters into every bit of our activity is abhinivesha, or the urge to survive, the tendency to survive, the urgency to survive. This abhinivesha. So the main thing in one's life is that he should survive at all costs. So now Patanjali says this avidya is the starting point. This abhinivesha is the closing of the circuit. It is this that is the chief ailment in us. So chitta could be diseased because of this avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha and abhinivesha. And the entire yoga practice is to weaken the hold of these kleshas. Klesha tanukaranartham. If you weaken these kleshas, you will automatically get into the yoga state. So the more important thing is to obviate the obstacles for samadhi, because samadhi is innate in us, and yoga says that which is not natural to you, you can't get it. You can get it, you can get something if it is natural to you, if it is in you, if it is within you, if it is a part of you. And if it is not a part of you, if it is not within you, you can't get it. The samadhi is innate in us. We are all heirs to samadhi, as exemplified in deep sleep. We are in a state of samadhi there. But in waking life, that is disturbed by this avidya, smita, raga, dvesha and abhinivesha. So yoga is a method by means of which these kleshas are removed, the stresses are removed, so that the individual is left free. To do this, yoga prescribes the eightfold path, the Ashtanga yoga. Yama niyama asana pranayama pratyahara dhyana dharana samadhi. Is the common ethics, common human ethics, socially valid, like uttering truth, not stealing, not taking away life, ahimsa, asteya, satya, and right sexual conduct, and not taking what you don't deserve or what you don't merit, aparigraha. The yama, it consists of the normal, common, preliminary preparation for the individual. So the common ethics, the common morality is ahimsa, satya, and brahmacharya, asteya, aparigraha. And then the individual goes on to the higher aspects of disciplining oneself. This is shuchi, he is pure, not only in the body, in mind also. Shaucha. Shaucha is cleanliness of the body and the mind. And then Shaucha, Santosha, Swadhyaya, Tapa, Ishvara Pranidhana, etc., etc., etc. Niyama is a series of disciplines that we apply to ourselves, that we commend ourselves to, and these are to prepare your mind especially for the yogic discipline. And then comes asana. Asana is not assuming 220 torturous postures as it is used. Asana is defined by Patanjali as sthira sukham asanam. If you are steady and if you are comfortable, that's the asana. Sthira sukham asanam. The asana, but it should be comfortable.